I think they have good intentions of creating like a safer environment for students, but the way it's run creates, how would I put it, a more tense environment. Like everyone feels more uncomfortable and insecure about their actions, mostly because of the people running it.
The Honor Code was more along stricter guidelines to hold you to some sort of higher esteem, which I don't exactly know how you could judge a higher esteem.
It's more than just the commandments and standards. I mean, and I think that's kind of where the issue lies. It's the little tedious things that really don't matter.
Is it completely reasonable to expect 20-year-olds, teenagers, to not experiment with, sex and drugs and alcohol and all of the things that kids that age, they do? It's a little bit naive to expect them not to and to repress them in that way.
First of all, if they were less strict, I don't think there'd be as much people who are scared to live at BYU housing, because I know some people refuse to live over there.
Is because it gives kids incentive to not want to confess and get things taken care of when they screw up, right? So I think that the way they need to handle it is, man, no one's perfect, but let's let these kids know that they can go to the bishop without being kicked out of school and try to solve the problem and become better. Because the second you take them out of a good environment, you stop them from progressing towards their career path. I think it's just going to be that much harder for them to get back on track. Instead
of it being something like, okay, don't let it happen again, we'll check up on you, make sure you're okay. It wasn't checking if I was okay. It was a punishment for sure.
The damage is real. The damage is real. A crowd of hundreds gathered in front of the Wilkinson Center, which houses the school's Honor Code office, to protest what some students and alumni call predatory and invasive practices when investigating infractions. The school's Honor Code, which draws heavily from standards of the Latter-day Saint faith, prohibits drug and alcohol use, premarital sex, and homosexual relationships.
I felt more like settling into a new place instead of just feeling like at home right away.
And I think we're doing them a disservice by kicking them out of school. Making the jump from high school to college it's a pretty drastic jump. I mean, just the numbers alone, from high school to college, there's so many more people.
It just seemed like a lot of rules for something that wasn't really going to be a part of our education.
Kids are paying thousands of dollars. They're working full-time jobs to go to this school. Parents are paying thousands of dollars. 25,000 plus students, someone's gonna mess up, and the fact that they could get kicked out of the university, they're not gonna come out, and they're not gonna come forward and say anything about it if it's gonna risk or jeopardize their ability to graduate from the university.
You get a kid who makes a mistake and wants to change, and you're gonna punish him by sending him home, taking him out of a good environment, and hindering him from progressing towards whatever profession he wanted to be.
BYU largely has not addressed specific student complaints, but released a statement today saying, quote, "We've seen the conversations about the Honor Code office on social media and have engaged in discussions with our students. The director of our Honor Code office has been meeting with students since last Thursday. These conversations have been very constructive, as students have shared with us their concern for certain processes within the Honor Code office. In some cases, these concerns do not reflect current practices. Even so, we recognize that it is our job to help students understand what processes are in place." But not all students agree with the protest.
I felt kind of ashamed when I moved out, because I felt like I was running away from something I should be punished for, but I kind of felt like it was also a bit too extreme though, because I do know that some people do get kicked out of housing for breaking Honor Code rules.
One of the other things I kind of pushed out of BYU was just the education, just because when I was there, it was just every day I had a quiz about something. It was just about random stuff. And most of the time when I was there, they were just talking. It was just, you come to class, you kind of talk, whatnot, and you leave and you have a quiz on like the discussions, like what you talked about.
I don't think it should be harder for you, or the requirement should be higher for you to obey the honor code than they are to enter the temple.
I didn't know what everyone was like and how everybody else felt about the honor code. And so I felt more like settling into a new place instead of just feeling like at home right away.
I'm LDS, but like it's still scary for me no matter what, just to like try and follow those rules, because sometimes like people make mistakes.
The process doesn't feel that way at all. It feels very unforgiving. For one mistake, you can be kicked out of the university. So I think a much gentler approach, maybe something that doesn't go through the university, goes through the housing, you know.
I do understand the curfew, although I don't exactly think they should enforce it so strictly. I used to work in a night job, so when I come home from work, I'd be locked out of my apartment and I couldn't get in unless I woke up the person on the bottom floor at 2 a.m.
I don't like when people, like when they go to report someone about the honor code and say, hey, there's so-and-so said this about somebody, that they're not willing to take responsibility or action for their choices, if that makes sense.
Students have also signed petitions asking the Honor Code office not to include bishops in any investigations and to get rid of rules requiring men to be clean-shaven and what they call outdated dress and grooming standards.